Hello and welcome to Facts webinar. So you think you want to farm? I'm Samantha Gasson, Facts Humane Farming Program Director, and I will be moderating the session. Thank you for joining us. Before we dive right in, let me take a minute or two to do a few quick introductions. Food Animal Concerns Trust, or FACT, is a national nonprofit organization that works to ensure that all food-producing animals are raised in a humane and healthy manner. We accomplish this by supporting humane farmers through our humane farming program, promoting policies that make foods from animals safe and healthy to eat through our Safe and Healthy Foods program, and generally help consumers make informed food choices. Please visit our website at foodanimalconcernstrust.org to learn more about all our farmer services. As always, I would like to thank my wonderful colleague, Catherine Hoke, who's joining us to help field questions and take over if at the very real possibility of my internet crapping out. Although my husband apparently has fixed it, but he said that before and he didn't. So hopefully he has this time. At this time, I am delighted to introduce one of my favorite people in the world, Chris Muse with Muse 3 Farm. Chris is the co-owner and project manager of his family-owned business, Muse 3 Farm, located in Greensburg, Louisiana, and which he started in July of 2018. Muse 3 Farm LLC is a minority business certified farm that specializes in beef, lamb, goats, chickens, rabbits, vegetables, and timber. Chris's farm has been recognized as a conservation champion since 2022 via the National Wildlife Conservation Champions Program and was recognized in September 2023 as a difference maker at the 2023 Southern University Small Farms Conference. Prior to starting Muse 3 Farm with his three brothers, Chris worked for IBM in Atlanta, Georgia for 32 years, where he performed multiple roles. In addition, he has 6 years of experience in the U.S. Army Reserve. Chris serves as the market administrator for the St. Helena Farmers Market Board, and he's a member of our board, Food Animal Concerns Board, Trust Board, and he's the treasurer for the St. Helena Cattle Company and treasurer for his church. Chris is also a member of the St. Helena Healthy Community Initiative and the St. Is it Helena or Helena?
Helena.
It's Helena. Okay, sorry. Helena Parish Industrial Development Board. I think I've been saying it all different ways. So we are super lucky to have you with us, Chris. As always, and I will put a link to the other webinars that Chris has done with us in the follow-up email. So without further ado, Chris, I'm going to stop my share and let you take it away.
Okay, let's see. Whew, I think I'm gonna have to cut back on that bio.
I know, sorry. I cut it back. I cut out a lot. There was a lot of stuff on there. You're a busy man.
Okay, let's see if you guys can see my screen. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
All right, okay. Well, first, I want to just say Happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully those New Year's resolutions are still intact. And I'm hoping that one of those New Year resolutions is that, hey, I want to be a farmer. I want to start a farm. As Sam mentioned, I'm Chris Muse. I'm one of the co-owners of Muse 3 Farm. We're still what I consider to be a relatively new farm. Even though we established the farm in 2015, we didn't fully incorporate it into 2018. And even then, I was still living in Atlanta, Georgia, and the farm is in Greensburg, Louisiana. So it took some work to get to where we are here today. So I'm going to share to you some of the experiences that I went through as we were looking to start our farm. So I'm not a professor. I'm not a CPA, but I just want to share some information that I think will be valuable to you. We do a lot of what I consider farm tours, educational tours on the farm. And I get a lot of questions, and evidently I'm going to get a question from somebody that says, hey, I am interested in starting a farm. And that's a pretty loaded question because what we're going to see is, what is farming? Farming can mean so many different things. So we really have to work and refine exactly what that means to be a farmer. And so as part of this presentation today, that is what we're going to attempt to do. So let's get started. I get this thing rolling. Okay, so we're just going to go over like a few different activities or steps that I feel that if you're really interested in starting a farm, here are some of the things that you need to keep in mind. We're going to start with that vision statement. You know, this is your farm. This is your vision. This is what you want this farm to be. It's good to have a good, concise, and clear vision statement so that in order to know if you're getting to where you wanted to go, you had to know where you wanted to go. So we're going to start with a vision. And then we're going to talk about some research and some education and legwork that you would need to do to be able to do those things that's going to be able to support your vision to allow you to start that farm. And then we're going to talk about that documentation, right? You know, we're going to have to document some things. This is a business that we're talking about. So we need to make sure we have a plan, and we want to make sure that we're addressing that plan. And keep in mind, it's just a plan, but we want to start with a plan. We're going to talk about the structure of that farm. You know, if we're going to be a business, we want to make sure we have a structure that represents our farm to keep us out of both legal trouble as well as any other issues that we may get into with our personal liability items. Registration of the farm. We're going to be an official farm. We need to make sure that our farm is properly registered. And then financing, right? That's the big one, right? You know, what do we need to do in order to obtain or acquire financing for this farm? Once we have the financing, let's go secure the resources we're going to need in order to make this farm viable. And then lastly, we're going to talk about insurance and the need for insurance and why you would want to get insurance for the farm. Okay, vision. When I started Muse 3 Farm, I had a vision statement probably about 17 years prior to actually starting the farm. I knew that I was going to have to retire from my current job at IBM, and I knew that that wasn't going to happen until 2020. I knew that I was going to move back home. I wanted to farm in my hometown. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. I was going to move back to Greensburg, Louisiana. I was going to work with my brothers. They were going to retire. They were going to move back home. And we were going to start a beef cattle operation. So that's what we started Muse 3 Farm from back in 2007, believe it or not. So that's what we started for. That's what we put the framework around. So when you're thinking about your vision, think about what you want to do. What type of farming you want to do. There are so many different types of farming that you can do. So you want to try to narrow that down and be as specific as possible. Like livestock. I hear folks say, okay, I want to be a livestock farmer. Where there's various types of livestock, even cattle. Are you going to be a dairy cattle? Are you going to be beef cattle? You know, are you going to do row crops? Are you going to do specialty crops? And don't be afraid if you want to do multiple combinations of these, you can, but it's good to know exactly what you want to do and what you want to do in order to make sure that you're going to be successful. Because once you identify that, now we can put the plan together that says, okay, this is how we're going to go about doing these types of things. Think about it. Is this going to be a hobby? Is this something I just want to do in the afternoon? I come in from work. I want to just go out and play around. Is this going to be something I'm going to do part-time because I need to still work? Or I'm just going to go in it full-blown. This is going to be my full-time job. You have to answer that question as part of when you're thinking about your vision. How are you going to support yourself? You know, if you're going to quit your job and go do this full-time, what's going to be the plan or the avenue for you to support yourself until the farm is able to support you? So that's something to start thinking about. Location. Are you going to do this in your backyard? Do you already have property? Does family have property you can use? Are you even going to farm in the same city that you live in? So you want to identify the location of where you're going to farm at. The scale of farming, you know, what's going to be the scale? And I put small, medium, large, and that's kind of subjective in farming. My farm consists of 250 acres. I consider myself a small farmer. I have a neighbor that has a half-acre farm. She considered herself a small farmer. And I know a guy in the northern part of the state that farms 100 acres of corn and soybean, and 1,000 acres. And he also considers himself a small farm. So that can be relative when you look at things. I knew that we were going to start out as a small farm, but my overall vision was that we would not stay a small farm. I don't envision staying a small farm. I do want to grow. What are your short-term and long-term goals? Why are you doing this? What are you planning to accomplish by doing this? Are you planning to leave a legacy? Do you care about profits? Hopefully, for business, we care about profits, but what are your goals and what do you want to accomplish in the short term versus long term? When I started thinking about beef cattle, I'm living in a different state, things automatically start going through my mind that, hey, I'm going to be expending a lot of money up front, startup costs, land, cattle, equipment, water. That's all startup costs. A cow calf operation, you're going to get what? One calf a year? So how many calves do you need in order to be profitable? So you have to start thinking about your short-term goals and the long-term goals as part of that vision statement. What's going to be your timeline? Are you ready to start next week, next month, a year? Like I said, in my case, it took me about 13 years because I knew I had to accomplish some things. I had to resolve some things before I would be in the shape or the position to start farming. So once you know your timeline, you can start planning to that timeline. And then, are you going to have any partners? Are you going to go at this alone? Are you going to go in and do this with your spouse? Co-owners. You have to take that into consideration as well as you develop that vision. Once you get a great, clear vision, what's the next step? Let's start doing some research and education now about what we want to do. Okay, I know I want to do these things, but let's go out and let's go and do some research to better help me redefine how I'm going to go about doing these things, right? So you have to do some study. If you're going to do food animals, make sure that the food animals you want to do are suited for your area. You're going to plant a particular crop. What's the strategy behind that crop? Where are you going to be able to market that crop in your area? Do some research. Prices, what's the market for those animals? I can tell you in 2007, when we thought about doing cow-calf operations, the market was not as great as it was in 2025. So we took that into consideration when you look at those markets and you look at prices. And if you go into some of these industries, especially like the row crop guys, that's a commodity. You can see where things can fluctuate. So you have to be able to take that into concern as well. Start your network. Get to know some of the people that's going to be very influential in order for your business to be successful. Some of the people that I often think are forgotten about are some of your local resources, like your local extension agents. Usually every county has extension agents. That's an invaluable resource that you can use in order to help you as you begin to formulate your plan for your farm. Visit other farms in the area. Go see what the other farmers are doing. You can learn by what they have done, their mistakes. Since I had been away from farming for so long, in my case, it had been over 32 years from farming, I would come back to Louisiana, sign up for field trips and farm tours to go out and just talk with other farmers, see what other farmers were implementing on their farms, how they were doing, what were some of the issues they were encountering, speak to some of the agents, the local agents. A lot of the ag professors would be at that farm, talk to them, talk to a lot of the USDA resources, understand what's happening in the environment so that, A, hopefully it can help prevent us from making similar mistakes that that formula may have made, but also gives us a clear path on, okay, this is how we need to proceed forward as we begin to start up our farm. You want to also understand any seasonal cycles that could impact your farm. You need to understand, unknowns, the risk, farming weather, right? There's nothing we can't control the weather, but we need to take that into account as we do things. In Louisiana, we have hurricanes, we have droughts. So that was some of the things as we're planning we needed to take into account. Regulations. If you're going to farm and you're going to do certain things, understand the regulations in your state. When we started out, we was going to be a cow-calf operation, but as we moved forward, we decided that, we wanted to move more into direct sales and direct marketing. Well, how do you do that? If you're going to do direct sales and direct marketing, there are certain regulations and things that you have to adhere to. Making sure that you understand those helps you be able to define and better refine your business plan. Register for, like you're doing today, these fact and other webinars that's out there. It's a ton of information that a lot of organizations like FACT is putting out there. Take full advantage of those webinars that FACT has been presenting. And I have to do a little shout out to FACT because as a new farmer starting out, when we had not proven ourselves that we have done any conservation, we're new, just like you, a new and beginning farmer, right? Where we said we need all of these assistance. Some of the larger organizations that's designed to help new and beginning farmers said not so fast. You need to go out and you need to do a few things before we can step in and basically provide assistance. FACT, with their fund, a farmer grant, we reached out, we applied, and that grant did tremendous things for our farm to get us started. It allowed us to put in interior fencing so that we could do rotational grazing. It allowed us to put water in each of our paddocks, but more importantly, it allowed us now to show sustainable process of conservation activities that we had started on the farm. And now we can go forward and ask for additional funding to allow us to enhance the activities. So take full advantage of all of the resources that are being offered by FACT and other organizations. All right, so we have that vision, we refined it, it's clear. We've done our research. Let's document the plan. And this is something that when I first started back in farming, I thought I was sort of away from this. I was a project manager at IBM, so I did this all the time. So I'm thinking I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to farm. But nope, it's a business, right? It's just like any other business. We have to have a documented plan. And starting out is very crucial to have that plan, especially as you're getting ready to establish your business, because you're going to have to do things. You got to establish bank accounts. You're probably going to go out and you're going to go out and try to access finance, capital. The best way to do it, the most efficient way to do it is to have a defined, efficient farm business plan. If you have that plan, it's going to make it a lot easier when you go in and you start talking to financial personnel or other people about what you want to do. It shows that you're serious. It shows that you have thought this through. And for yourself, it shows you that, hey, okay, this can be a viable business. What goes into those plans, is based on your vision. You take your visions and you're going to outline the goals. What do you want this farm to do for you? What's going to be your success factors? How do you know that you're successful or not? What's going to be the products that you're offering? What's going to be that startup and operating cost for this farm? That's going to be key. And I can tell you, starting up a cow-calf operation, coming from where I came from, where we had to purchase everything because we didn't have anything. Even though I grew up on a farm, my dad only gifted us 1 acre of land. That was not going to be enough to do what I needed to do. So we knew we had startup and operating costs, and I wanted to be able to account for that to ensure that this farm would one day eventually be profitable. I knew year one, we were not going to make a profit. Year one was going to be a loss. I knew year two was going to be a loss. I knew year three was going to be a loss. But by doing this, year 4, year 5, year 6, we can start breaking even. So you want to list those things out, because if you don't plan it, how do you know you're going to be successful or not? Income projections. Think about it. You ought to be able to project your income. Like I say, our cow calf operations, my income was going to be we sell those calves at the end of the year. We started out with 6 cows, so we had 6 calves to save. So that tells you what the income, if you look at income to expenses, what that means. So we knew we had to do some other things in order to be a successful and viable farm. Your marketing strategy, you're producing an asset. What are you going to do with that asset? You know, like for cow calf operation, are you going to sell it to a sale barn? Are you going to sell it to an individual? If you're going to do direct marketing, where are you going to sell your product at? Are you going to do it online, on farmers markets? You're going to try to sell it to schools or to other agencies? What's going to be your strategy that now that you produce this product, how are you going to sell it so that you can get income coming in? Education and training. You may be doing something that you have never done in your life. How do you know you can be successful at it? How are you going to get yourself educated and trained on that? I grew up on a farm, but since I had been so far removed from a farm, things change. Technologies change, terminology change, the way we do things change. I had to go back and re-educate myself on the latest initiatives, the latest technologies, the latest advances that's going on out there to see so that I can ensure that my farm would be sustainable. So all of those are types of things you want to put in your plan. And then risk management. Every business has risk. You cannot get around risk. If you can somehow put together some type of risk management plan, knowing that risks are going to occur, that how do you deal with that risk? And a lot of it may be unknowns, but you know that something is going to happen in farming, and you need to keep that in account when you're farming. Document that plan, and remember, it's a plan. So plans are meant to be adjusted. Plans are meant to be updated. So it's not a one and done thing. My plan now looks totally different than when I started my plan. Because as you learn things, as you do things, as goals change, as years go by, you update the plan according to some of the actual things that you're seeing. So keep in mind that that document is a working document, but it's a great document to keep you aligned to your original vision and your goals and what you want to do. But it's going to also help you as you go out to seek advice, funding from other different organizations. Okay, now we are a business, right? So let's think about what's going to be the structure of this business. Is it just going to be Chris Muse? We're going to give it a great name, that our branding, that people understand who we are, where we are, what we do. Are we going to be official and legit? So you want to, if you're going to spend all of this time and effort to establish this farm, we want to make sure that we establish it and register it correctly so that we can take advantage of those financial items, that assistance that may be out there to assist us. So you want to do it. I mean, because farming, like I say, depending on what you do, you may have a lot of expenses up front, but you want to be able to account for those expenses so that you can properly allocate and write those things off. You want to think about it from a management perspective. If it's just you by yourself, you're single, you're going to go out and do this, okay, that's great. But what about if you have a spouse or a significant other? Are you going to partner, or your brother? You want to partner together. So now you have multiple people partnering together. How are you going to structure this to make sure that at the end of the day, everybody is happy, or at least everybody knows that what we all agreed to, this is what you're going to get. You want to structure that business in a way to do that. And there's a few different types of ways to look at structuring it. I listed some here. The sole proprietorship, that's you. You're taking basically everything. You're not going to register your business. You say, I don't want to register my business with the government. I don't really care about those guys. I'm going to have everything. Everything's going to fall on me. Where, you're putting your business and your personal assets at risk when you do that, when you commingle those two there. But it's very easy to do and it's inexpensive to maintain, and you can do that. If you're really going to be a business, you can look at other items. Partnership is, again, that's one that's similar to sole proprietorship, but you're still not as structured and covered as you do if you go into what we consider the limited liability company. I would recommend limited liability company for your project, for your business, even if it's a single person or if you have multiple people. In my case, it was me and three brothers, so it was a no-brainer. We needed to form us a business. We formed a LLC partnership, and that's what we formally used to incorporate Muse 3 Farm as our brand, and that's how we became recognized. And you can see my logo, it says we established Muse 3 Farm in 2015. That was more the vision and the business plan. We were not registered in 2015. We became fully incorporated in 2018 because we knew we were getting serious. It was getting close to retirement. One of my brothers was ready to move back home. I was getting ready to move back in 2020. So we said, we need to do this. If we're going to do it, now is the time to do it. If we're going to be truly, truly all in, let's do it, and let's do it right. So we decided we was going to do a LLC. We formed the LLC, and more importantly, make sure update your business plan. Keep that business plan updated. That's a living, breathing document. You want to make sure that it stays as operational and as functional as possible. Okay, all right. So now we've got us a company established. Let's get it registered. Let's do it the right way. We're going to talk about, registering with the state, the federal government, making sure they understand that, hey, Muse 3 Farm is a business now. So you want to do the official incorporation of your farm. That means in state, every state has their processes. You have to do it in the state where you're going to be farming, where your farm is going to be located at. But make sure you officially incorporate your farm in that state so that you become a state recognizable farm. I also recommend obtaining you EIN. That's the Federal Employment Identification Number. And it's free. If you go online and you Google, you will see a lot of companies wanting to do that for you, and they want to charge you anywhere from between $250 to $500 to do it. It is free. I think it took me literally less than 5 minutes to obtain an EIN number for the farm. So you don't have to spend a lot of money or get that number, and that becomes your ID for the farm. Just like your social security number is for your personal assets, that EIN number is now going to be the number for your farm. Open up a business bank account. You've got that business plan. You're registered now. Now you can go into a bank and you have the documentation you can now open up and establish a business bank account, because you're going to need that if you're going to start a business. You want to make sure you keep your income from the business separate from the income from your personal account. So you need that business bank account to say that, hey, I am official. I can do business now. The other thing I recommend is in sam.gov, that's another federal system. Go ahead and obtain this UEI. It's called a Unique Entity Identifier Number. That is also free. You could do that yourself. You don't have to pay anybody to do that. And what that's going to do for your farm, your business, is going to open up opportunities now for you to be able to apply for some federal grants and federal loans. And there are even some private grants and loans that require that number. There's a lot of farmers I work with, they do not have that UEI number. So sometimes when a grant application comes out, they don't know what to do. Go ahead and do that. Get that out of the way. Apply for any state sales tax permits that may be applicable for your state, because you're going to be purchasing a lot of equipment. you may as well get the tax break. That's one of the benefits of owning a farm, get those tax breaks. So make sure you apply. They're going to vary from state to state, but as part of that research you did, make sure you go ahead and apply for those state sales tax permits. Now we're good with the government, we're good with the state. Let's talk about registering our farm with the United States Department of Agriculture Farm Services agencies. As a farm, you can go at it alone and you can spend a lot of money. Our government has money out there allocated for farmers. If you don't get your share, that's more for me to get. So I would recommend that you get your share of that funding as well. And the way to do that, you have to be registered your farm with the USDA Farm Services Agency. They're generally available in every county, although some counties do. Some counties basically they have one agency may support multiple counties, but typically there's going to be a FSA agency somewhere locally to you. You would go in, you would register your farm, and you're going to obtain, it may be one farm number, or depending on the amount of land and where it's located, you may receive multiple farm numbers. But that's going to be your key. If you want to access any of those USDA farm services programs, those NRCS programs, you're going to need that number. That's something that you're going to have to do. And again, it's free too. You don't have to pay anybody to do that. You do have to visit your local office and you have to do that. I use that also as a time where now you get to engage with the FSA NRCS resources. You're starting a farm, you have your business plan, you probably talk to some of those on some of those farm visits. Now's your time to really go in and talk to them about what you want to do, because we don't know sometimes what we don't know. You may be wanting to do something and they know that there may be a special program out there to assist you in doing some of these things. My vision when I started the farm was we was going to be food animals, cattle. After talking with FSA and the resources out there, we realized that some of the land we had, it would be more beneficial for us to put that land back in the timber. So we became tree farmers again. So they had special programs out there. If we would not have gone in and talked to them about some of the things in our plans, we probably would not have done that, and we probably would have missed out on some of that funding. So it's kind of good to go in with your plan, explain to them. You want to make those guys become your partners. And we know how we talk about when we're dealing with the government, but the government works for us. Those guys work there with us. Those guys in our office are probably some of your relatives or some of your neighbors or some of your friends. Go in and make sure you establish that relationship and get those farm numbers. All right, so now we registered our farm. We've got our company incorporated. We're ready. We're ready to start farming. Where do we get the financing from? You know, that's the trick, right? Well, where do I get this financing from? And again, financing a lot depends on your situation. My brother and I, we knew we needed land, right? I told you we needed land. We was moving to Louisiana, so we knew we was going to need land. That was key. We knew we was going to need animals. We knew we was going to need infrastructure. We needed a lot of money to get started. I would say consult first with that USDA local farm services agencies before you do anything. See what they have to offer in the form of loans and grants. In my particular case, when we went in and talked with those guys about loans, we didn't qualify at that point for their loans. But what they did do, they pointed us into the directions of some other companies that did specialize in loans, especially for land, for purchasing land. And that's what we really wanted to do at first. We needed land. We couldn't do anything without land. So They got us in touch with people that specialize in agricultural finance and land. And that's key because living in Atlanta, I had my banks, I had home mortgages, I had home loans, I had personal loans, home equity loans, car loans. Anytime I needed a loan, I just went to my bank. And my bank said, okay, we can do it. When I went to purchase land, my bank said, nope, we don't do that. We do not finance land. So we spent some time struggling with that, but working with the FSA agency, they did put us in contact with those financial organizations that specialize in land financing. And lo and behold, we actually had a credit union right next door to us in the next county that specialized in land financing. And so when we found those guys, we were ready. We were ready to start rolling at that point in time because now we had somebody that could finance the land. And there's pros and cons between FSA loans for land financing and personalized private land finances. We were in a situation where we needed to really move quickly. Land became available right where we grew up, right next to where my father property was. We wanted that land very badly. So in that particular case, working with this private institution, we were able to move and close on that land within 30 days. Working with FSA, it may take a little longer. The other thing to keep in mind is do not get frustrated when you go into those offices. There's a lot of paperwork. If you're going for a loan, I think one of the loan uh, applications was like 67 pages I was looking at. And because we structured our business as a partnership, we had to fill that out for the company and for each partner, which was four of us. So there's a lot of paperwork that had to be done. So don't get frustrated. Do it. If you're really interested in doing it and serious about it, just do it. Get it done. Work with those guys to make sure that you get that financing you need. The other thing you can look at is owner financing. Maybe the seller would finance that piece of property or something for you. Or in our case, savings. We did use quite a bit of our savings to get us started. So those are some of the things we can look at when you're getting ready to finance that particular investment that you're doing. And again, this is going to vary farm by farm. How much financing you need, if you need any, is going to vary about where you're starting from, what current assets you have, what current assets you maybe can inherit. Those are going to be some factors that decides on how much financing you're going to need. All right, now we've acquired our finances. Let's go. Let's go secure the resources. So, now you have it. You got to go out and do it. Let's start a farm. What you're going to need? Land. If you don't already have it, go out and acquire the land. Uh, Animals, food animals, you have to have water. And I'm of the mind if you're going to do food animals, you need to have grass. So you need to make sure you have a sufficient amount of land and grass to be able to support those animals. Again, that's another reason why working with the USDA, they have particular guidelines that in order to receive some of their services, they look for you to adhere to. But as a farmer that believes in humanely raising animals, I like for my animals to enjoy the property as much as I do. So I want to make sure we have enough space that they can move around. But when doing space, you have to make sure you have water supply. So if you're going to break your land up and divide it so you can do a rotation of grazes, you got to make sure you have the interior fencing and appropriate water supply to do those things with. A lot of those things are some of the things that the Fact Fund the Farmer Grant helped me out with as well. And a lot of the resources we did, we came from USDA, from NRCS as well. But you need to make sure you have those things, get them in and get them started before you are ready to start farming. And then lastly, but not least, do not overlook insurance for your farm. Typically, most of us is going to have insurance on our personal assets, right? Our home and our cars. But you just made this major investment in your farm. Make sure you have insurance to cover your farm. Now, farm insurance is different and it's definitely farm specific. So you're going to have to work with your agent to think about the right policy for your farm. The things you do on your farm can greatly impact the types of insurance you needed. We eventually went into agritourism with our farm. So that meant we were going to have a lot of youth and other people, non-farmers working on the farm, right? So that opened up a risk that we had to put in some mitigation strategy, and we had to work with our insurance company to talk about step by step. This is what we're going to do on the tour. This is where they're going to be at. What are some of the obstacles? Oh, you have a pond over there. What are you going to do to mitigate that risk? Farm has farm equipment everywhere, right? So what are you going to do to mitigate that risk? And we have holes, right? You're going to have holes. You're just walking, there's going to be holes in your ground. So what are you going to do? So work with your insurance agents based upon your farm, the type of farm you want to do, but make sure you're covered. I mean, you don't want to do all of these things and you lose a lot of your assets. I had a gentleman here in our area. He had to leave town for 4 days because of a funeral. He had somebody who was supposed to monitor his farm. They didn't. He had a water break. So his animals did not have water for 4 days. So he lost 30 cows because they did not have water. So those is what some of the things why you need to make sure that you have insurance to protect this business, protect this investment that you just created, protect you against these risks and disasters that's going to happen, and to make sure that you have that liability and property coverage. Well, all right. With that said, first of all, I just want to say we need more small local farmers. So I'm glad for everybody that's on this call that has an interest in farming, that wants to farm. We really need you. I believe every community should get the majority of their produce locally. That's not the case. I don't understand that. I mean, I've been working with our school systems, and for the life of me, I still haven't figured out why we need federal programs in place to allow our local schools to purchase local products. To me, it should be totally reversed. That should be the standard. Start local first, and what you cannot acquire locally, then you go out and do it. So, but we're gonna need more of you guys. We continue to grow. Use those backyards. Use whatever you have, and let's just keep making things better for us and everybody. We want to be able to eat healthy, and we want to make sure our animals are healthy as well.
Thank you, Chris. So we're going to go ahead and do our usual poll. If everybody formulate your questions, put them in the Q&A. I mean, Chris, that was great. You gave lots of really good information. As you're going through, I'm like nodding my head and yes, absolutely. You need this, you need that. So I think that was very, very good and very helpful for anybody just starting out. So I'm going to go ahead and launch my poll. And if you guys wouldn't mind answering that, that really does help us when we go for funding. And we want to keep these webinars free. Sorry, somebody's sending me a lot of messages. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we don't have any questions right now in the Q&A. Did you notice any, Catherine, as we were going along?
It looks like
we've got
two
just
came in.
Just came in. You want to go first?
So, yeah, I'll start. We've got Cheryl who asks, I've really struggled with finding an agritourism as well as a commercial liability insurance. How were you able to find an insurance company to cover your agritourism activities? I am limited to what I can offer to the public, and I've been running my farm for over 6 years now.
Great question. And that she's correct about that, because insurance companies, they like to hedge their bets too, right? And so when you mention agritourism and then kids out on the farm and you got the hay rides, all of these activities you may be doing, in their mind, oh, something is going to happen, right? So get ready, right? So I researched in my area I went with my personal home insurance first to try those guys. They said no. So I went to I think Farm Bureau. I went with USAA, Allstate. So I tried a lot of different ones, but eventually Farm Bureau did decide to come out. And it took a while. I mean, it was like I've never had that many agents. I mean, they sent out an initial agent to come out and do a walkthrough. I had another agent. I had documents I had to sign that says exactly what I was doing. What was the scope of the agritourism. So I almost had to have a plan for the agritourism as well. What we're going to be doing, how we're going to be doing it as well. And then farm in Louisiana, Farm Bureau is providing me with the farm insurance that I have for agritourism.
So I can add to this as well. So we used to do summer camps. I only stopped doing them actually relatively recently, but with the summer camps, and I had Farm Bureau, and as soon as we moved to we were renting our property, and then we moved to a piece of property, but our homeowners, when we were renting, covered any agritourism. And then when we moved and we owned the property, they dropped us. And so we had to find somebody who was farm friendly, and it's easier in different parts of the country. But that's one of the biggest questions is how do you get, especially for summer camps, that was really hard to do. All right. So Tara asks, excuse me, can I file taxes for 2025 if I just filed as an official farm business the end of December? I want what I did to be established. That would be a good question for Andy Larson. But I think if you've got records and stuff, if you've got records, it doesn't have to officially. I mean, you can do it under you can file your Schedule F under your Social Security number. It doesn't have to be under
right. Yeah, you could do that. And one of the things I always tell people too, one of the lessons I learned is when you're establishing that business, you may want to make sure you talk to a CPA that specializes in doing farm taxes. Because I've tried other CPAs that didn't really understand farm taxes, and we missed a lot of stuff. So I would definitely recommend, especially starting out, to start with a CPA that fully understands taxes for farms, because there's so many different things that may be available for you, especially starting out. You want to make sure you take full advantage of those items.
And of course, a farm tax accountant is really hard to find. Somebody suggested to me recently going to your FSA office or your farm credit office. So if you've got a farm credit in your state, going to their office, somebody suggested asking them if they know of anybody.
Yeah, that would be a good place to start with. FSA has resources that they typically know about, but the farm credit, those guys would know some people as well, because they deal with a lot of farmers, right?
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask other farmers too. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to go on those tours, to understand what other farmers was doing, who they were using. So I did trial and error, and I checked with some of the farmers, and that's how I got to my CPA, because of recommendations for some of the other farmers.
Yeah, mine just retired, and everybody in my area has been saying this, asking each other, like, who's your accountant? Who's your accountant? And everyone's like, I don't have a farm accountant. So yeah, it's hard in certain parts of the country. It's hard, especially if you're in an urban area, which we are. So it's hard.
Yeah. And that's why, and don't be afraid to visit with other types of farmers. I really have nothing in common with row crop farmers, but they have a lot more expenses than I do. And so I asked those guys, okay, well, who's doing your taxes? So there's some things you can still learn from them, even though they're doing a different type of farming.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next question, I'm going to assume what was meant is it's how to find a farm to visit. And I'm assuming the intention is with finding a farm to visit and maybe learn about their farming practices or how to farm.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I started, I fortunately here in Louisiana, I'm close to two agriculture universities. So those agricultural websites would have information about farms. Your local extension agent is going to have information because probably they're going to be on the agenda at those farm tours and visits, because a lot of times you're going to have the local extension agents out there. You're also going to have your local USDA personnels, be it if it's FSA or NRCS. So you can also ask those guys as well. Say, hey, do you know of any upcoming farm tours or farm visits that's going on?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of nonprofits that will go ahead and organize farm tours that anybody can go on. Like we have Carolina Farm Stewardship Association in North Carolina, and they organize a big farm tour every year.
Yeah.
So might be
Because
others in your area.
there are a lot of them out there that's free. That's one of the things I
Mhm.
saw when I started doing them. That if you they was having them almost every weekend. So for me being in Georgia, I could almost pick a weekend and come to Louisiana, and there's going to be somewhere it's going to be a farm tour or field day happening.
And a lot of cooperative extensions will actually have farm school. I don't know if they do in your area, Chris, but that's a good option too to get. I mean, you're to learn how to farm. That's a good place to go. Do you guys have it in Louisiana? We have it in North Carolina.
Yeah, we have those. We have some even offer small farmer classes at the universities too that takes
Oh,
you
okay.
through a more in-depth course, about
Mm-hmm.
a 10-week course about the things that you have to do. And they go in more details than what we went in on the call.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
use those resources.
and if I can add, and this ties into the next question about how to start increasing your knowledge while maybe you're holding another job in a completely different field. Um, I had a farm for 6 years and worked for other farms for 4 years before that, and I think it's absolutely invaluable to work for another farmer before you get into your own business, whether that's 1 or 2 days a week. It's just farming, like Chris said, it's really expensive. It's a lot of investment, and it's such a great way to find out if your lifestyle works with farming because it's not just a job, it's absolutely how you live your life, and it dictates a lot of a lot of how you live, whether you're able to travel a lot and these sorts of things. And if you can find that out without spending a ton of money, probably
That's a
probably
really
really
good.
good.
It's a really good point, Catherine. And a lot of farms will allow you to do like a shift here, a shift there kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you reach out to farmers, a lot of them will let you say, if you want to come out and volunteer and see some things, most farmers are amenable. They'll say, okay, come on out. We'll show you some things. You can see what's going on this farm.
All right. Thanks, Chris. And that was good. That was a good thought, Catherine. What sources did you find was best for doing research, especially regarding products and marketing?
I did a lot of Google searches on the internet. I looked up other farms on the internet and see what they was doing, how they was marketing their products. So you can use those agriculture universities. They usually have some research papers on those things. A lot of it though, is some groundwork. If you're gonna do say farmers markets, I never intended that when I retired that I was going to be doing farmers markets, but once you do things, you have to move the product. Go and visit those farmers markets, see what they're doing. Fortunately for me, a lot of the farmers markets were not doing protein. So I saw
Mm.
that there was a gap there that I could come in and fill that gap. If I got all of the correct certifications, I could do that. So go visit in the area to see what's going on. I went talk to a lot of school administrators, prior to the Local Food for School Act, to ask them, what would it take? What do I need to do? Schools really won't produce, vegetables, but they have requirements. They can't have too many steps in the process. So there may be some things that you may have to do. But I went in and I talked to a lot of school administrators and school cafeteria agents about what they would need if we were able to do those things. So you have to get out and promote yourself and just talk and see what's going on. I've given away some of my ground beef to local barbecue restaurants to say, hey, try this meat and see what you think about it. So just getting out there to see. And then
Mhm. Mhm.
networking, meet as many farmers that's doing these things, that's doing something that you're doing similarly, and see what they're doing.
Mhm. And most farmers they're willing to share information even if you compete in this is my experience.
Yeah,
There's the odd one that won't share anything, but for the most part, we share information. I've got a group text that I always, anytime I have a question, or something happens, if if the meat inspector is coming by, we share that he's coming. So my friend Ben can lock his front gate so he doesn't want him to come on his property. But it's just good to have those relationships with people, and yeah, you're going to compete with one another, but my view is always, the more people you have selling your product and doing what you're doing, you're all going to ultimately benefit from one another, because you're going to create a community, and it's going to become more of you're not going to be quite the unicorn. You can be part of a group of people who are all doing the same thing.
yeah.
I think
I
that's
think,
important.
yeah, and I think you get to the point where the issue won't be that, it's going to be the demand. Do you have enough
Yeah.
supply to meet the
Yeah.
demand?
It's always, do you have enough supply? It really is. Yeah. And okay, we've got a couple more questions. You want to ask the next one, Catherine?
Sure. Yeah, I just want to add to that.
Good.
Of
Do
just,
it.
yeah, you can't farm alone. You
No.
absolutely can't farm alone. So not only is it like, is it probably okay to ask people for advice? You're gonna have to. You're gonna have
Yeah.
and that's how farmers survive, is all kind of, leaning on each other a little bit. Hopefully, I'm sure. I don't know. It's true in North Carolina that the farming community
Yeah.
is pretty tight knit, and
It's
it
pretty
is
tight. Yeah.
it is
Yeah,
crucial.
I think that's true in general with the farming
Yeah.
community.
Is it for you
Yeah,
as
I hope
well?
so.
yeah.
I hope so too, because you do need to be together to help with things. And it's like, I hurt my wrist a couple of years ago, a couple of summers ago, and it was right in the middle of processing, and I desperately needed somebody to come and help us process. And so I called my friend Ben, who actually is Catherine's friend as well. I called my friend Ben, and I'm like, who do you have that could come and help me for the rest of the season? And he sent me these two guys, and we still work with them to this day. But if I didn't have him, I would have been in trouble, because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do any of the eviscerating or anything. So it would have been ugly. I don't know what we would have had, some ugly big birds. We wouldn't know what to do with them. Feeding them, I guess. But yeah, so but it was just having that resource is amazing, and building those relationships. And Chris, that's one thing you're really, really good at. You're really good at building and creating a community. That's one of my favorite things about you.
Yeah,
Sure.
well, that's it. If you're going to be a farmer, I think you have to do that. You have to be relationship building, because you depend on the community, right? I mean, the community decides where they're going to spend their dollars, right? They can spend them with you,
Mm-hmm.
or they can spend it with somebody else. But if you can establish that relationship, you know, my farm is pretty much open. I have an open invitation. So if people want to see how an animal is being raised or something, they're more than welcome to come to the farm. So we show them what we're doing, and that helps sales the farm.
Yeah, yeah. The last two questions are about insurance, and then that's going to be it for us, because we're right at 2 o'clock. So, do you have any recommended insurance companies, or is your insurance is through Farm Bureau, right?
Mine is through the Farm Bureau. So you're probably
Yeah.
gonna have to check just who's available in your area, who does it. Call around, tell them what you want to
Mm.
do. Have your plan documented, because they want to know what you're doing, right? I mean, so make sure you have that plan. And
Yeah.
eventually one of those guys are gonna
Somebody will
somebody's
call you
financing.
back.
You just have to find the right person.
We actually did raw milk for a while through a herd share, and that's like the kiss of death. Nobody wants to insure that, but I found somebody. So if I can find somebody to insure me for summer camps and raw milk, then anybody can find anything. And then the other question is it okay to use waivers before you get insurance? And I have a strong opinion about this, but I'll let you go first, Chris.
Okay, to use waivers. You know, I do waivers with insurance. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think those waivers hold its weight. I mean, I'm even registered with the state of Louisiana for agritourism, and so we have this whole big sign, Section 345, is that
Mm-hmm.
we put
Mm-hmm.
plant warning that this is agritourism. And if you fall or hurt yourself, you're on your own. But Louisiana is a sue-happy state. I want that extra protection of insurance. That's why
It's really not incredibly expensive if you're not doing a ton of volume. You can get $1 million of liability insurance for that for a reasonable amount.
And if you want to sell at farmers markets, you're going to have product liability for most farmers markets. And I actually had one of my summer camp kids was their parent was a lawyer, and I had a waiver for the summer camps, but I also had insurance. And she's like, please just let me rewrite your waiver. So she rewrote my waiver, and then, but still, even then, she was just like, it doesn't matter who writes your waiver, it's never going to be enough. You have to have insurance. If you want to, I mean, there's things you can do to lessen the blow if somebody sues you, but you really you don't want to have any problems. You want to be covered. And it, like Catherine said, it is not terribly expensive just to get general liability. For meat, it's a little bit more expensive for product liability, but we're able to do, because we have farm insurance, anybody who visits the farm is covered under our liability on our farm because of the activities we're allowed to do on the farm. So. And Farm Bureau is a good place to start, but it depends on the county or the because if you go one county over, you can get great insurance. But if you're in our county, our Farm Bureau, what they're willing to do is it just stinks. It depends
it's insurance companies, right? That's what insurance companies do, right? They can do what they want to do.
Anyway, well, I'm just going to share my screen really fast so we can finish this up. All right. So we are coming to the end. I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. And of course, a huge thank you to Chris, because Chris is always amazing. Just a couple of housekeeping items. I will be sending a recording of this webinar. And from that webinar, you can, if you want Chris's slides, you can just screenshot from the webinar. That's probably the easiest way to do that. It's hard to share slides anymore. We are also, I also took note of some of the links, so I'll send links to the how to get your DUNS number and all that kind of stuff, and your FSA number, and I will find your FSA office. So I send those as well. So we're taking a bit of a break because Catherine and I are deep in the weeds with grants, and sorry, somebody's calling me. Sorry, on the computer. That's always confusing. But we will be back on the 27th of January with Purple Martins Conservation's Community and 40 Pounds of Insects a Year, which is very exciting. And that actually came out of one of our webinars. Somebody in the chat said that they wanted to do Purple Martins. So this is for you. I can't remember who you were, but this is for you. Anyway, so thank you so much. A huge thank you to you, Chris. You're always amazing. And a happy 2026 to everybody out there. And we will see you at the end of the month. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Good luck. Let's go farm.
Thank you. All right. Let's go. Bye.